here's our hosts. We got Jim Godwin, Kansas City, Priyanka Johri coming from the great state of Houston. Can I call it a state of Houston?
Houston is a state.
Good. You could do
state
that.
of mind.
State of mind, the state of Texas. I'm Jesse Zagorsky in
You
San
should
Diego.
say a different country. Texas is a country, remember?
Texas is a country. So we're diving into every other week. We talk about some of the more the emotional, the interconnection, the stuff in real estate that I believe actually makes it a really fun career, and also probably makes you a lot of money when you learn this stuff, but also helps you survive or thrive in a interesting market like we're in right now. So Jim has an interpretation of this "don't get mad, get even" statement, because we're not really talking about going out and like slashing tires of people who don't accept your offer. It's not what we mean. But Priyanka, you said it first. I want to know if you remember, what were you thinking when you were saying "don't get mad, get even"? What does that mean to you? And then Jim will come to you.
This is my favorite phrase, and I really mean it. I have done it multiple times in my life. I do not remember how we came up with this. I remember Jim and I were talking about last Friday about what the market is doing, how the buyers agents, seller agents are reacting. And we were talking about the emotionals, and Jim said something about getting angry. And I said, oh, we don't get angry, we get even. And then you said, oh, we should have this topic. And I don't remember how we came up with, like, how this is going to imply. So it's going to be all off the cuff. But I will tell you, like, in my personal life, how I have used it. So when the animal sanctuary is also my home. When I was looking for that, it took me 2 years to find it. So you guys know all that story. But when I moved in, one of the neighbors came by, I think it was the second day or third day, and she had an old photograph of front of the neighborhood, and it says "for whites only," right? So I thought, I do not get subtle hints. So I thought she was sharing with me the history of the neighborhood. But then she started telling me that how I was the second person in the neighborhood that is colored. And the first person is, or was at that time, a landscaping guy who mowed everybody's lawn in that neighborhood, but nobody else have ever lived in the neighborhood that was colored. And families have lived there generation after generation, and how there are certain families that have grandparents there, parents, and their kids there. So like 3 generations living in this particular neighborhood. And I'm a stranger coming in, and I better not be thinking about changing things. And there are certain ways, that people live over there or here, because I'm still there. It didn't get me mad. I just like, what the heck was that kind of thing when she left. And I didn't get angry. I was just like, I'm gonna get even with that. So I went ahead and bought the foreclosure in that neighborhood. I went and bought that. Then I bought another property. Then I bought another. And now I'm the majority homeowner in that particular neighborhood. And I have been there since 2006. And that's one of the examples of that. I don't get mad, I get even. So when people push my button, I usually find things that propel me forward and get something out of it, right? So that's like an extreme example. But in our day-to-day life, what's going on in the market today, I think if agents are getting upset with you or your offer didn't get accepted, I think that's what Jim and I were talking about, like buyers agents are getting angry and upset and mad that sellers are not understanding, or sellers agents are not understanding their situation or their client situation. And I was just like, well, I have buyers whose offers have been accepted. You have to work hard, and you have to work differently than other people, right? So if somebody's sending 20 offers, even in our situation, right? So as a listing agent, I have more listings right now than buyers. I have to go through all those offers. I have to present it to the seller. And we talked about, like, my job is to get them the best deal, best money, but it also has to be a strong offer. So just because it's the highest price doesn't mean that's going to be the best buyer. And we have to look at all the factors, right? Just because somebody said, like, oh, I'm going to pay $50,000 over, we don't accept that offer. We say, okay, are you qualified? Why are you paying $50,000? Can you afford to pay $50,000 over? If it doesn't appraise, do you have the money sitting in the bank? Are you ready to write an appraisal waiver kind of thing, right? So you're looking at all those things, but then the emotional factors we have talked about sending the love letters, right? So buyers write the love letters, and it's like, I do not let my sellers read the love letters. I tell them when I'm taking a listing that my job is to protect you from making any emotional decision. But as a buyer's agent, it's like, write the letter, because we want to get to the seller. And recently, I have been able to get a offer accepted for one of my buyers that. Are you guys still there? Yeah. One of my buyers, because we connected with the seller at an emotional level. I'm a dog rescuer, animal rescuer. They have rescue dogs that they have adopted, and that was a connection when we met them, right? And they accepted our offer above everything else, because I'm just like, all my buyers are animal lovers, and they have a rescue dog, and I have this animal sanctuary. And they said, oh, give us the name of the animal sanctuary. We rescue dogs, and this dog is very scared of people. So, that's why we are here sitting in a garage. I was like, oh, let me talk to your dog. And that dog was all over me. And they said, oh my God, this dog doesn't love anybody. That was done, right? So at that point, we knew that we are gonna be at a very top of the list. But they came back same night. It's like, oh, realtor calls us. It's like, my clients are accepting your offer, your client's offer. They left you guys, and we had a strong offer also. So it was just cherry on the top, kind of thing. So there's no need to get mad at sellers' agents if your offer is not getting accepted.
Right. But let's bring it back to the concept you said, because I really like what you said. Because now I understood when you said, I don't get mad, I get even. Typically when I hear get even, what I hear is like vengeance, right? Like retribution, whatever, but in this case, you're talking about, you don't get mad. You're channeling that, what would be anger, into something that actually, you said the words propel you forward, but you're channeling into something productive. I think, Jim, that was right. that was your take on it too, right? When you heard that, don't get mad, get even. What was your take on it?
Yeah. So the way that, so let's create a distinction between getting even and getting back at. To me, there's a huge distinction there. The getting in the traditional sense of getting even means that you're going to do something, like Jesse said, vengeful with vengeance to somebody, or to get back at them for something. Right. What I think that we're talking about is even in the sense of evening the playing field, straightening things out, creating open lines of communication, diffusing situations, taking away emotion so that you can actually talk to the individual and get to the core of what's actually going on. Everyone's emotions are extremely heightened in this market that we're in, right? So people are saying and doing things that they typically wouldn't do because they're in a very stressful situation. Buyers know that they're up against a bunch of different offers, and they don't necessarily want to put an offer in on this house, or they don't want to put the terms that they're putting in, but they feel forced, so they're doing it. And that energy gets channeled to the agents a lot of times, gets channeled to the seller. They're upset that they're having to do something that they don't want to do, that they're being forced into, and then that blame gets put on the agent sometime. And so getting even in that sense would be to take what's happening, take that anger and even it out, flatten it, so that you can get through that situation by talking to people, by listening, by understanding, by being compassionate, by being caring about the situation that they're going through, and then working from that.
I love that too, because if you don't, go ahead, Priyanka.
So recently, there was a Facebook post in one of the local realtor groups, and it was a buyer agent who just started that, this is like a 6 offer my buyers lost. And she was just raving about how sellers were not understanding, how sellers agents are not understanding. They are all greedy. They're going for the top dollar. And her client is so nice and this, that. And I actually said the same thing to her. It's like, don't get mad at seller's agent, get even. And she's like, how? I said, go find a much better deal for your clients that this was. And that's your, getting even. So like, yep, that agent did not accept your offer. How about working a little harder, going maybe a little bit more out of the area, talking and figuring out and finding a deal that is much better than what you just lost. For me, that's getting even. And I have done it. We have lost offers, but I don't get mad. And I tell my clients, it's like, it must not have been meant to be. And maybe there's a better deal around it. And we actually have, in 2 cases, found a better deal, which is like property was better for the same price, or one property was similar, but we got it cheaper than what we had lost the previous offer for. And my client's like, you were right. We got a better offer. We are so glad the other offer did not get accepted. For me, that is getting even. Like,
Yeah, I used your line, by the way, Priyanka, the other day. I had a client who said, we were coming in 120,000 over list price. And he's like, well, what happens if we don't get this? I said, look, if you don't get this, this is that was as high as he felt comfortable. We went through everything. Like that was like, it was stretching, but he was good. He was happy there. I'm like, look, if you don't get it at 120,000 over list price, it wasn't meant to be for you. There will be another house that will be a better fit. I channeled my inner Priyanka. I used that line and he's like, okay. And he felt better. Right.
So, this morning, another friend of mine said something very similar. She said, I asked myself, what would Priyanka do? So it's like, when I get into a situation, I just say, what would Priyanka do? I was like, oh, she's like, yeah, it's very similar to what would Jesus do? I was like, yeah. And now you said, like, you channel inner Priyanka. Yeah. I was like,
That's it. But I love where Jim was going with it, which is you guys are saying very similar things to evening out the energy, because if you don't, it's what happens if you don't get even. And by even, again, we're talking about evening out the energy, leveling the playing field somehow. That energy, that negativity, that frustration carries over then either back to your client, back to the other agent, back to somewhere else, and just makes things a heck of a lot harder.
Yeah.
Right? It's like your life philosophy, right? Like you should approach everything in life the same way. I don't like failing, right? So failure for me is motivation. If I fail at something, that drives me harder to achieve whatever goal I have. And that has worked like my whole life, no matter what I do, not just real estate. And I think that's what we have been talking about in this whole thing. Every time we do the podcast, is changing our inner self, right? It's not just about real estate. You can't isolate like, oh, I act like this in real estate, but in my real life it's different, and in this life it's different. It has to be the way of thinking. You have to change your way of thinking.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so a really good example of this is I work with a lot of veteran buyers. I'm a veteran, so I attract a lot of other veteran buyers, and you can imagine how frustrating it is for them right now, because getting a VA loan approved with a contract is very, very difficult.
Right.
I have one buyer that has lost out on 11 different offers, and she's extremely frustrated, and so she's looking to me for leadership, right? For what to do and think and say next. And if I'm coming back to her, matching her frustration, that's going to create an entirely different experience for her than if I come to her with some sort of a solution or some hope. So that's the shift. That's the shift in energy. So I'm working with them on doing new and different things, like to try to get our offers accepted, but more importantly, shifting expectation. And so like they know that they're coming from, unfortunately, they're coming from a step down, or maybe 2 steps down from other offers that are being presented. So right now the ladder goes cash, conventional, government, right? And that's just the way it is. That's just the market that we're in. So having them know that up front, and know that we're coming from a position of being behind already. Let's do new and different things, not expect an offer to get accepted. And if it does, that's great. Let's continue on. And when the time is right, it'll hit. But if I'm upset with them as their offers are getting rejected, and telling them that it's going to be impossible to get a house, what kind of environment does that create?
Well, and let's dive into that, because there's a lot of agents that they know they shouldn't say the words out loud. This is impossible. You're never going to get a house, but they still communicate that in other ways. Have you guys seen that, where there's either subtle, subconscious choice of words? Like, what are some ways you've seen agents communicate frustration other than just saying straight out, you guys ain't never going to get a house? What do you see that happens?
Here's the biggest thing, I think, is what happens is suddenly you start showing them less houses. The communication goes a little bit further and further out. You stop they maybe go to the back burner a little bit, subconsciously or consciously. I don't know. I think the little things, the subtle things are not communicating as much as you typically would, or not trying as hard, or not presenting offers faster, not thinking of other ways to get offers through, that type of thing. I think that's what the
And
very
I
beginning.
think he's
go ahead,
asking like
Priyanka.
what you're saying agents are doing to have their clients feel more comfortable or better about the situation they're in, right, Jesse?
Mhm. Correct.
Yeah. I don't know, because we always talk about like how straightforward I am, right? And with my clients, I'm just like, I did it day before yesterday. They texted me and it's like, hey, Pri, let's go and see this home. I was like, sure, I will make the appointment. And I said, okay. I was like, but don't expect to get any, but please don't fall in love with any of these homes. And they said, why? I said, because we are not ready to make offers. And they said, why not? I said, because we still need to sell your home. We are not making a cash offer. We will have contingency of selling your home. And most probably those offers are not going to get accepted. And they texted me back, why not? I said, because if I'm a realtor who's selling a home, I won't either if I have better choices. And they said, oh, can we give you a call? They called me and we discussed why and why not. And they said, oh, that makes sense. I said, like, if we are selling your home and somebody comes in and say, hey, we want to buy your home, we are ready to pay $20,000 over, but we have to sell our home before we can buy your home. Would you accept it in this market if I bring you 7 or 8 offers? And they said, like, oh, most probably not. I was like, no, 100% not. If we have a better offer. If we don't have a better offer, that means we haven't priced the property right, or property is not in a good condition, something else is going on. If property is in a good shape that people want, if it's priced right, we should get multiple offers, and there should be more offers that are much stronger than that. And they thought about it for a second, and they're like, you're right, we won't accept that offer if we have other choices. I said, then why would somebody accept your offer unless until you're gonna pay so much over that it beats every other offer, and this becomes a best offer, which I won't let you do because I don't like paying too high. And they started laughing and said, fine, we're just gonna wait until we sell our home. And then I said, we are gonna do the lease back, and then we are gonna go and look for the home, because then we can be a cash buyer. And it was a very straightforward conversation. You just have to give them all the information. I know it was a little disappointing because one of the homes the wife really liked, but she's like, I get it. And you're right. I don't want to fall in love with it.
Interesting. So it's I think for you, because everyone's a little different, but for you, it's that sense of, you call it straightforward, but it also is a level of confidence that you instill in your clients because you are so matter of fact. There's no gray area. It's like, this is what we are doing. It instills a level of confidence, I believe. Agreed?
I think so. And these are my repeat clients. So like I say, I don't lose clients, right? Once they come to me, they are mine for life. So these people, I haven't talked to them for 3 years. And then they just like, hey, Priyanka, market is hot. What do you think? Should we sell? I was like, yep, we should sell. I was like, oh, but then we need to buy another one. I was like, yep, we will buy another. What you're looking for? And we just discussed all that kind of thing. But you're right. The way I dealt with them the first time, right? So that has established me, like, she knows what she's doing. She's the expert. And every time I get a new client, that's my thing. Like, hey, you are hiring me because you think I'm an expert in real estate. So you have to listen to me. Otherwise, you can go and buy the house yourself. You don't need me. You need a realtor because we do things that you can't.
Right.
And once I have done that, established that, like, hey, if you don't listen to me, then you can go because I won't take you on.
Right.
And I have been very frank about that. Like, because before, when I was a new realtor, I wanted to take every client on and they don't respect you or they don't want to listen to you. And that used to be frustrating.
I
And now
still,
I'm at a
I still
position.
have a hard time not wanting to take every client on. I mean, I'm 17 years in and I still it's like, I want to help them. I want to,
I
and
just
I,
declined one day before yesterday evening. She called me and we were talking, and within 10 minutes of conversation on the phone, I said, I don't think it's going to work out for us. I think you need to find another realtor. And she was a referral from another client.
Yeah, I put someone on a timeout.
You put someone
Huh?
on a timeout. Did you tell them that?
Yeah.
All right, tell me this story.
I had a buyer that had an offer accepted on a property, and she within 2 weeks from closing, she backed out of the contract and said that she didn't like something about the house. She was forced into buying the house because she was on a shortened time frame, regretted making that decision, and said, I really don't want to buy this house. I'm backing out. This was the second time that happened. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and then she expected me to fight for her to get her deposit back, which we luckily ended up doing. And she had no recourse at all. And so, so I got on the phone with her, and I was like, what is going on here? Because this is you're not only are you risking yourself and your money in this situation and getting sued, but you're also putting my reputation on the line. And I don't know why this is. I don't know why you're doing it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I finally got her to admit that there's other things going on in her life that are affecting the decision, and it's, and I'm like, okay, well, we're not gonna look at houses right now with this other stuff in the way, because what is stopping the same thing from happening again?
So can I pause you real quick?
Mm-hmm.
How did you get her to admit, don't go into what the details were, but the things, they weren't clear, and all of a sudden, like, how did you get her to share those details with you?
So I knew that something was off. I could sense it, right? I could feel like there was just something other than real estate going on with her, because I've been working with her for a while, and this was outside of character. And so I just kept pushing on it. I just kept saying, look, there's something else going on here, because I don't understand why you would like a house, want to buy it, be gung-ho with it up until this point, and then not want to do it 2 times in a row. It's not you. What is going on? There's something else going on here. And I just kept pushing it until she, because if she wasn't going to tell me, I was going to end the relationship. Because if you're not being honest with me, then how am I supposed to help you if you're not honest with me?
Okay, so then this is a distinction to point out for people listening. When you come to the point where you're ready to end the relationship, what you're also saying is you're unattached to whether or not you continue working with them. And that allowed you to, like Priyanka said, keep asking the questions, or Priyanka calls it blunt or straightforward. It allowed you to feel comfortable, Jim, continue to asking the questions to get to the level of depth you wanted to. That I think if either of you guys were attached to working with the clients you wanted to work with, you wouldn't be able to do what you do. Jim, you wouldn't have kept asking questions. Priyanka, you wouldn't be as blunt as you were if you were attached to, like, I got to have all these clients work with me. You agree with that?
Totally. And really, when you look at it, so our fiduciary responsibility is to look out for their best interest, right? How am I looking out for their best interest if she's lying to me about her own best interest? I can't even do it. So even, I mean, even ethically, in my opinion, it's continuing on searching for a home for her is a little bit of a gray area there, because I'm not able to really live up to that responsibility.
Right.
I had a client who did very similar thing twice. And then I had a conversation with her when she called me for the second house, like she wanted to get out of contract because this or that thing was not right with the house. I was like, then why did we make an offer? Because I always tell my client, when we are seller, we are not making emotional decision. When we are a buyer, we are making emotional decision. You need to fall in love with the house. You need to say, like, Priyanka, this is it, and do anything and everything to get this house for me. That's the only time I'm gonna make an offer for you, because I want everybody to live in the home or dream home, not just like, there's a house kind of thing. And then I would negotiate for you. I'll do everything, and I will tell you, like, yeah, it's a good home. Or if not a good home, I have dragged people out where, like, you told us that if we fall in love, we are falling in love. I was like, nope, this is not your house. This is not a good home. There's so many issues going on, kind of thing, right? But with this girl or lady, I called her back and we had a long conversation, because I have showed her so many homes. And I do not have a problem. I'm not like other realtors where they say, like, if you don't select in 10 homes or 13 homes that I have showed, that's it. I have shown people homes for 6 or 7 months. So I really do not mind if they see 40 or 50 homes, because I want them to find the home that they love, right? So with this lady, I just like, okay, so why did we make an offer if you were not in love with this house? Because she was coming up I said, I don't know. At that time, I thought like, it was, but more I'm thinking about it. I think you did it the first time also. So it took us a while, few days, and we paid the money for the inspection. We were almost out of the option period the first time. Second time, we ran out of option period. You're telling me 2 days after the option period, after we have negotiated all the repairs and everything, I don't think you're emotionally ready to buy a home. And she was a first time home buyer. And she's like, no, I have been waiting for this long. I said, yep, I know you have been waiting for this long. I know you saved the money to put the down payment, but I don't think you're mentally and emotionally ready. You're scared to be a homeowner, and that's why you're doing it. And she's like, no, 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 like maybe we can find another home. I said, you're going to do exactly the same thing because you are not emotionally there. You're scared to be a homeowner because the things that you're telling me, like you don't look like this about the house and this thing that we negotiated for the repairs, that was wrong. But you knew about it. And it's completely normal reaction. Like first time I bought a house, I was scared. So it's completely okay to be scared. And she thought about it and she's like, you're right. I am scared. And first time I was scared, so I got out, then I regretted it. And this time also I'm scared. And most probably I'm gonna regret it, but I'm not ready. And I think that's completely fine. When you're ready, we're gonna start looking again. But right now, you're not there emotionally and financially you may be, and you need to get to that point. It may be in 6 months, it may be in a year, it may be in 2 years, and it's fine. Take your time. And we got out of that contract. She lost the earnest money and she was fine with it. But she's not looking at the homes, and I'm fine with her, not being there yet. It's a first time home buyer, and it's okay to be scared.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. That's a great lesson to learn for new agents, because I think a lot of people will look at that and say, I'm not going to be able to help them into a house and create income for me quickly on this. But when you do what Priyanka just did, they will tell every single person they know how amazing you are. And that will generate more income from you than that one sale will ever do.
Yep. And it does all the time, because I have clients who haven't used me and they send me clients. I have people, who haven't been my clients. Who send me clients.
That's pretty cool. You have people that have not worked with you referring you clients just because of who you are and how you've interacted.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. So
just because I'm bossy.
All right. So before we run out of time, I want to circle back to the beginning of this topic to see, because I had a couple other questions. It was don't get mad, get even. But the feelings of anger that pop up are normal and natural. So, I mean, I have a 2.5-year-old and a 5-year-old. Roll with me on this. There's a cartoon show called Daniel Tiger, and they sings a song called, what do you do with the mad that you feel? What do you do with the mad you feel? Jim has young kids, maybe he knows that song. But so agents are going to feel that frustration. What do you do first to pivot, or do you feel it and then you change? What do you do before you start going to the leveling the playing field portion?
I'll go first, Priyanka. I think the very first thing to do is to recognize that it has nothing to do with you. I think a lot of the emotions that get triggered are from the perspective that something is happening to you because of something you did. If that gets wiped away and you realize that it doesn't have anything to do with you, it's people's reactions that you have no control over, and stop taking it personally, you can come from a more clear space.
I love that. Priyanka,
I think all the emotions are natural, right? Including anger, frustration. I'm an emotional person. I cry, like, when my dogs are hurt, I cry. When my assisted living things are going on, it really affects me. And I'm not ashamed of, being sad or crying, feeling frustrated or angry. So for me, it's like, I need to conquer my anger and I don't want to get angry. It's part of who I am, right? I react, but it's like over instantly. So I don't simmer in it. It takes little time to get over it, and it's natural. Like I let it run its course, kind of. But that even part, my mind automatically starts working like, we lost this deal, or we lost this project, or we failed in this. What do I need to do to get there? Because I'm very goal oriented. Once I set my eyesight on something to achieve something, I'm going to achieve it. That's what I have done my whole life. So I don't know how to say, like, how to pivot. I would say just acknowledge it, run it through. Don't just dwell in it for days and days and days, because that doesn't serve a purpose. But let it run through you, get it over with, and then just focus on what you need to get what you have lost.
Yeah.
I like that. That's something I've heard. My wife, who's a therapist, I've talks about. I always ask her not details about our clients, but I'd ask her about concepts, because it's very similar in our industry to things they do in therapy. Sometimes it feels like, obviously we're not their therapist, but there's overlaps. And she said sometimes that if you give the feeling a name, like you just said, identify it, that to help you move through it, you give the feeling a name will help you pass through it. Right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say create a trigger, and that's exactly what that is. I call it placing a post in the ground, and I picture myself placing a stop sign in the ground every time that something happens that I know is a trigger for me to react. And instead of reacting, I put the post in the ground, and I use that as my trigger to say, okay, now's the time to step back.
So when you say a trigger, is it a trigger to an emotion or an event or a feeling or all of the above?
All of it. So if something comes up where I start to get angry or upset or emotionally charged in some way, the goal is to recognize it as soon as possible. So recognizing it, the way to quickly recognize it is to train the brain to see it right away. And the quicker that you can see it, the quicker that you can get out of it. And so the way that I have trained my brain to see these things coming up in a quicker way is putting a sign in the ground. And then I can say, oh, stop. It's time to stop and think.
Yeah. I love the quicker you can see it, the quicker you can get out of it. I think it's a really good takeaway for me on this one. We've got a few minutes left. Any other tips and tricks, things that you guys use, takeaways you want people to get from this?
I have a quick tip going back to VA buyers and how to shift the conversation a little bit. So I had this work for me recently, and I'll preface this by saying that really figure out if this fits within your client and make sure that it's the right thing for them. But I'm gonna tell you something that I did with a VA buyer that got their contract accepted, which is I shifted their perspective in the way that they're purchasing by saying that, yes, you're using a VA mortgage, right, to finance your deal, and it's 100%. And you have every right to do that because you served our country. If you were not using this loan and you were doing a conventional financing, you'd be putting somewhere between 5 and 20% down. So if you have the money to do that and you're just using VA because it's a better financial transaction for you and you want to use your VA, great, let's do that. But our offers are getting accepted not by price, but by how much you're willing to pay over the appraised value. So let's now take the money that you would be typically putting down on a mortgage on a conventional loan between 5 and 20%. We'll figure out which works best and use that towards the appraisal gap instead of going 100% financing. Still do the 100% financing, but let's use that money in a different way. In essence, you would be using that anyway to put as a down payment. So it opens the conversation for people to see that there's a way for them to get offers presented in a way that will have them win and not feel like they're losing out.
That's smart. I like that. Do you find you just started using that people go with that logic pretty easily?
Yep. Yeah, if they have the money for it. If they're using VA because they need 100%, obviously that doesn't work. But people go VA for other reasons besides just not putting money down.
Right.
Sometimes it's a
And
better
they earned it. So
they earned it.
they
So they
should
want
get
to use
it. Yeah. Yep.
So I had this happen where we put 10%, which is what they had, into the appraisal coverage instead of not doing that or putting less down, because I've had a lot of people with VA want to say, I'll do 5,000, I'll do 8,000, I'll do this or whatever. But if you shift the conversation to be like, this is money that you would have had to use anyway if you weren't using VA. And if this is going to be the difference maker to get you this house, let's do that. And then they're more open to the conversation of having it be a higher number or a percentage, which gets them the house.
I love it. I'm going to start using that phrase, the difference maker, by the way. It reminds me of Mentos, the fresh maker.
Did I say that?
You said the difference maker.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to use that. Every time I want to call with you guys, I get good, I think Priyanka might have frozen, but every time I want to call with you guys, I get good verbiage that I can use. It's these little shifts that you can throw in with your clients, whether it's phrasing, positioning, that make all the difference in this business, especially given what's going on in the market. What an interesting market we're in right now.
Totally.
100%. All right. Well, Priyanka, I don't know if she's coming back. She's frozen. Do you see her hand frozen on your screen?
I do see her frozen.
She's frozen. Oh, now she's gone. All right. Well, I don't know if she'll be back in time before we wrap it up. I was just gonna wrap it up for the afternoon, but hopefully those of you watching, I mean, make a comment on Facebook. Let us know if are you having experiences like this where there are things that have frustrated you or gotten you mad that you're able to shift it or work through it. Are there things that you can do that if your clients are getting mad, like teach your clients, don't get mad, get even, right? And if you phrase it that way, it also helps them pass through it, that like, it's okay, you're frustrated, your offer didn't get accepted. We're going to shift through it. And the way you're going to get even is you're going to get an even better house. We're going to find you something else, right? It's a really powerful reframe. I love it.
I do.
Well, thanks, Jim. This is fun, man.
Yeah, I always enjoy it.
Every 2 weeks. I love these. If you guys have a topic you want us to cover in a future emotional gymnastics webinar, let us know. We are happy to dive deep and do some research for you in the world of anything on the emotional side.
Yeah, please let us know. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Have a good day. See you, Jim. Good to see you. Bye, Priyanka. Bye, guys.